there's a couples workshop. About 200 couples have signed up for it, and the workshop leader is a chauvinistic guy. And so he says, okay, I want all the husbands who are head of the household to line up over here, and all the husbands whose wives are head of the household to line up over here. So all the guys line up over here, under where their wives are in charge, except this one guy. The workshop leader goes, don't you know that the Bible says that men are supposed to be head of the household? What are all you guys doing in this line? This is the only man who stood up. And so he looks at the one guy and he goes, so how did you do it? How did you give God's promise of being head of the household? And the guy looked confused and said, I just stood here because my wife told me to. Okay. Every time is a good time to begin. Every moment is a good time to begin. You know, being somebody who's had over 96 jobs, I know what it is to begin again. But it isn't just that. I know people who have tried a million different diets, tried a million different ways to quit smoking, a million different ways. And you know, what's interesting about that is that you could get into the headset of looking to somebody who's tried all these different diets or all these ways to quit smoking or all these other ways and go, geez, they're never going to get there. Look how many times they're trying. When instead I look at it and go, look at how relentless these people are. The relentlessness of going again and again and again and not giving up. You know, others look at that and go, well, that's so undisciplined. Why didn't they stick with the diet they had or the smoking program they had or whatever? And I say, no, that's not how this world works. You know, we have the ability to begin again at any moment we want to begin again. And a lot of times life is telling us begin again. And then somehow we feel like a failure because we got to begin again instead of it building that relentlessness within us to have it, to get it in a way that actually works for us. Right? Because that's really what we want, not just to, you know, quit smoking or not just to have the results of that diet, but actually to feel like life is working. And it's relentless to keep trying different ways for life, to find that way for you that life works. Because that's what this teaching is about. This teaching isn't just about, you know, some American ideal of success, like having the big home with the 2 cars and the 1.5 kids. I always wondered about that half a kid myself. But you know, and the half a dog. I got a full dog, and I keep wondering what that would be like if it was just half. But anyway, the idea is that when we buy into that kind of collective consciousness, we lose our sense of self, and is only our sense of self that really matters to bring forth that passion that is within us, that passion that wants to express itself in life. Each of you, when you were little kids, had a tremendous amount of energy and passion, which I have been completely reminded of by the puppy I now have, and the way he spins around the house, and the way he jumps on everything and wants to get into everything and thinking everything is so cool. I look at him and I go, he looks at life like everything is so cool. And then, you know, I have to say, no, you can't bite this. You can't go there. You can't do that. And he goes, okay. And then goes on to the next thing to bite or whatever and begins again. You know, or he'll just wait a couple of minutes and completely forget that I said no and begin again on the same thing he was at with the same kind of passion he had previously. Man, that is where we're born. That's our birthright, to have that kind of passion about whatever, and to be willing to begin again no matter what it is that pops up. Because lots of things do for most of us. I don't know, maybe you're one of the people who have simply walked through life. Everything is worked out exactly the way you wanted it to, in exactly the time frame you wanted it to. And, you're just thinking, well, life's just a hunky-dory thing. If you're like that, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the ones that are closer to experiencing the life I do, which has lots of obstacles, lots of things pop up every single day. Some days work better than others. I was telling Ash, we're putting together a new movie project. I've written a new script. We've been pulling together all the pieces for this new project we're putting together. And it has come together the easiest of anything I have ever done in my life. And so it is possible, I am now experiencing, to have things fall into place and roll along. And, that feels great. But I also know everything I went through, all the steps that happened before this. There are people who show up at the Oscars and are called overnight successes, because it looks like it just came to them and was all so easy. And everybody who knows that it was all the 30 years they went through to have that thing finally fall into place, to have it flow the way it finally flowed, to have it work out the way it finally worked out. And I'm experiencing some of that now. And one of the things I was thinking about on the way over here today was how I'm still learning. And what's really funny about that, for me, you may not think it's so funny, but I think it's funny, is when I was a teenager, I was positive that by the time I hit 60, I would have figured it all out. I just knew that, you live your life. I was looking at my grandparents. They seem to have it really well figured out. And I was thinking, by the time I'm 60, I'm going to have this really well figured out. And then I hit 60, and it turned out, nah, I really didn't. Now, I had some warning about that, because as much as I thought my grandparents had it figured out, I was pretty clear that my parents did not. And so I had some foreshadowing, some forewarning that things weren't going to work out. And what does all this have to do with beginning again? Well, that's the beauty of still learning. You get to begin again every single time that something comes up that you didn't know, that you now get to learn. Every sports group. Well, I'm a football fan. And the beauty about football is there has never been a team in the NFL to win a game without at least punting once. Well, that's probably not true. There's probably is a game somewhere that I don't know about where that happened. But all the big championship games and every game I've ever seen, the team that finally wins had to at some point punt the ball away. Punt the ball away means you give it back to the other side, for those of you who don't know the terminology. You give the ball back to the other side, and then ultimately either the other team then scores or they have to give it back to you. One way or another, you're getting it back, and when you get it back, you begin again. And the game of football is always about beginning again. Even when you have the ball, after you get 10 yards, you get to begin again. So even as you're on your journey, even if you haven't had to step back to begin again, there's a way in which in your day-to-day you get to begin again. And the beauty of beginning again is you get to feel that sense of rejuvenation around that. If you really feel it, get into that place of beginning again. If you let yourself feel that way, right? So this past week, I had, it was a week ago, I had root canal surgery and then went back to get a crown. And they told me when I went back to get the crown that, no, you're not ready for the crown. The first thing we have to do is actually tear into your jaw and take out some of your bone. And so that was a surprise. Unexpected surprise, surprise, surprise. So they tear into the bone and they do all that. And then they're saying it takes like a month to heal. And so that was on Thursday. And Friday so Thursday and Friday, actually, I was home. It went pretty well. It felt like it was starting to heal. Everything was good. About 10 p.m. last night, something happens in my mouth where all of a sudden blood starts like shooting out. And so I run, and then I remember, and the funniest part about that was then it said, if this happens, go put a gauze on it and squeeze as hard as you possibly can. So I go to CVS at 10 p.m. last night, get myself some gauze, come on back, put it in there, squeeze as hard as I can, which I have to tell you hurt like all get out. And the bleeding started to shut down. The flow became less the more I squeezed and held it over time, because your body is really good. This is the other part of this. You are a spiritual being, and your body, responds to that and is really good at healing when you set it on the right track to do so. And so here I was thinking to myself, okay, my healing is beginning again. It didn't work out the way I thought. The way I thought was things were going really well. It was just going to heal. Everything was going to be copacetic. No, I had this setback that could have easily, there was a time in my life would have easily got me very upset, maybe, sent me into a bit of a tailspin. And instead, I was just like, okay, I get to begin the healing process again, except it isn't really again. The beauty of beginning again, almost all the time, is you have something to learn from the last time. And that's a huge part of our teaching too, right? That we actually practice the learning piece, the knowing piece, that whatever's gone on, we get to begin again with more knowledge than we had the last time, with a little bit more knowing about this. That's the beauty of somebody like myself who's done 96 jobs. There are so many of what I learned at those jobs that I bring to this one. And that sometimes it's amazing to me how many of the things I've learned I get to still use now. It isn't like they were wasted. Nothing you have learned in your life is wasted. Now, this all may sound very practical and may even sound unspiritual, but it isn't. This is the spiritual practice. In Buddhism, they talk about the spiritual practice being compassion, service, love. It's very practical. It's very down to earth. This is ours too. We are here to be of service to ourselves and others. We're here to be compassionate to ourselves and others. And we're here to find ways that we can do all this in a way that feels loving to ourselves and others. And for me personally, for going through that process of learning how to love myself and others has to do with all these little ways in which I train my mind, in which I offer to you to train your mind to think in terms of what works best for you. As we begin again, each and every time we get a chance to do that, what we're doing is finding out a little deeper each moment what really works best for me, what really works best for you. And I don't know about you, but for me, I keep discovering that what I thought worked best isn't always the case. Because I keep the question fresh. What do I need to do to love myself now? What do I need to do now in this moment? Because I keep the thought fresh of, since I'm beginning again, what's a better way to go about this now? And I don't get stuck in the automatic that is so easy to get stuck in, like trying it again the same way, or trying again, or thinking that it's not going to work. God's will. It's not going to work. No. If you have passion for it, if it has meaning for you, then you have a way of doing it that will work for you. And it will work in the perfect and right time as you continually look within yourself to discover what works best for me, recognizing that what worked best yesterday may not be what works best today, because the best spiritual principle I know is be in the present moment. The more we can be present in what matters to us, the more we can look at ourselves with dead right honesty and not kid ourselves around what is really true for us, what is really true for you, what really matters, and what is going to work best now. We get to continually make those fine shifts that continually tune our lives more and more as we dial in to what works best for us. When I was younger, many of the shifts I made were big. They were big, gross shifts from left to right, this way, that. I was all over the map. Well, obviously, 96 jobs, you're all over the map. Now, the beginning again is all about fine-tuning. You may be at a stage in your life where you need big change. You may be at a stage in your life where you need fine-tuning. Knowing the difference is important. It'll help you decide what your next step is. And don't think that just because there's an obstacle or things might be a little rough right now, that calls for a big change. I speak to a lot of people who, because they're having trouble in their lives, want to make a big change. When in fact, they're missing that a small change would have a much more dramatic effect for them having the lives they actually want to have. So that's what's possible here. What's possible here is that when we begin again, when we are present in the moment, when we are clear in the question and fresh in the question of what we're asking ourselves, does this work for me? What will work for me now in this moment? What will really work for me right now? And keep fine-tuning that. Well, then we get to grow from that. We get to see the results of that little, just that little fine tune, that little thing, switch right there that allows us to then grow into what is next. Because I had this problem with my root canal, I didn't want to run back to the doctor and say, okay, screw it, just pull the tooth. That would have been a gross change, a big change. Instead, I just thought, okay, we start this healing process. I know a little bit more about it now than I did previously. No more granola on that side of the mouth. And we work our way from there. In the spirit of beginning again, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is this center. Me as your senior minister of this center. And this center. And many of you may not know that there are 2 years left on the lease. A little less than that now. And that what happens after that is a complete unknown at this point. And so I'm sitting with that and saying, okay, how do I relay this information in a way, because what I don't want to do is scare you. I'm not scared, so I don't want you to be scared. What I want is for us all to be in this together. In beginning anew, one of the things I realized that I have not created well enough here is a sense that we are all in this together. I think one of the things that may have occurred around here is that some folks think this is my center instead of it being yours. And that I'm just here to facilitate your center. And so as we come together with this, as we look at what happens next down the road, I'm looking for folks to not just volunteer their time, but step up and volunteer ways in which this can flourish, this can thrive. Our rent went up $500 a month starting in January. That put a lot of, we had an amazing year last year, and then this year, beginning anew, we are starting out feeling a bit of a crunch. And so I thought what I could do with this is what I've always done with this in the past, which is pretty much keep it to myself, stand in the knowing that the money will show up, and then, a lot of times it does. And then I thought, beginning anew, what do I really want? Well, what I really want is to feel like we're all in this together. That I'm not the only guy running the show here, but we're all in this together. And so I wanted to bring forth that, we're in a bit of a crunch. This is your center. We have people here who get their salaries each week, and at the moment, we're in a bit of a crunch. And so I want you to know that. I want you to know that your center is working with this, and however you feel you want to step up is the level of ownership you want to have around your center, because it's not mine, as we move forward in this together, in beginning anew. And I know that this works on different levels for each and every one of you. And so it's up to you to discover for yourself what is yours in this, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with whatever you guys individually decide on terms of your contribution and support of this center so that it can continue in the way that it has. And I'm also open to that this can change. But the fine tuning that I wanted to do for 2020 is make sure you folks were more aware of all the things that go on around here, that there's even a higher level. I've always felt like a very transparent guy. And then, for instance, today found out that many of you didn't know that Scott left. He moved away, sold his house and moved. And so he's gone. And somehow that didn't get relayed in a way where everybody thought Scott was doing sound today. And so there's more communication. So another way of fine tuning is I am committing to communicating more with you in terms of what's going on here. Now, what I'm saying now may not sound very uplifting or spiritual, but it's a part of spiritual community is how we are together. So that's what I'm asking. I'm asking because that's my next step, is to ask. Because I'll be honest with you, it's not so easy for me to do so. I'm sweating up here. Don't. And you too, ask and you shall receive. What I'm doing up here is modeling what I want you to do, what I encourage you to do in your own life, which is ask, which is reach out. You know where you are in your process. Whatever your spiritual process is, you know where you are in it. And if the next step is reaching out, being more transparent, communicating better, whatever it is, take that next step. I encourage you to do it. I am up here modeling it myself because I want to do it. I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. I want to keep expanding my spiritual experience on planet Earth. And that's what I want for each and every one of you. So I'm up here saying these things, offering these things, because that's what my next step is. I don't know what your next step is. I want you to explore it and know for yourself what it is. Because if you take it, whatever it is, in the smallest of fashions, you will have a shift. You will see your life change. You will see your life grow. Take that next step, whatever it is. Only you know what your next step is. And I am here to support you in it. The practitioners are here to support you in it. The ministers are here to support you in it. Take advantage of your spiritual center. See what the next step is for you in your spiritual center, to give and get support, Because that way, we're all in this together. We grow together. We love together, and the world becomes a better place because we are together. Thank you. I love you. All right. This is the part of the program where we ask somebody to come up, courage to pray on. Come on down, Myrtle. And tell us what you'd like us to pray for.
Increased health.
How about perfect? Yeah. All right. Let's not just increase it. Let's just know it's fantastic. All right. Let's have 8 to 10 hands on, please. Turn forward, Myrtle. And as we take a deep breath, relax. And as always, we start within our own hearts, feeling that love, that light, that healing. Knowing that truth within our own hearts for ourselves. And then that healing light expands throughout our entire bodies so that we feel healed, whole, loved, light. And now we expand it again to feel all those around us, and you folks online, we feel you and feel us here as we all as a group know the power and presence of this healing, loving light. And now we take this powerful energy and we send it into Myrtle. Flood her, shower her with the power and presence of the divine healing that happens right here and right now.
My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you.
And I am so, so grateful for the power and presence of community, for the love and light and the healing that Myrtle is right here and now. Her health, her well-being, vital, fantastic. Every cell of her body singing with the health of the divine right here and now. Each one of us in this room feeling that sense of divine love, light, and healing right here and now. I am so, so grateful for all we give and all we receive, as we say together, and so it is. And that is the power of community. That is what's possible when we come together. And I am so, so grateful for each and every one of you and what you bring to this light, to this life, to this love. Thank you. All right, it's that time of the program where we take out what we're going to give. Hold it in your hand. It doesn't matter whether it's $1, $10, $100, $1,000. Deeds of property, gold mines, diamonds, hold them in your hand. Knowing the power and presence of this, knowing what this brings to you, as well as flows through this community as we say together, God is the source of all supply. Money is God in action. What I give, I receive multiplied abundantly. All that God is, I am, and so it is.